השקופה.
Okay. The first word in the Torah, and according to all the girsot, according to all opinions, is Bereshit. Now, I'm not so well versed in Hebrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but Bereshit, according to Rashi, grammatically would have been not the best word to start the Torah with. Berishona, Betechila. Bereshit seems like a word, Omer Dorsheni. Why did Hashem choose the word Bereshit to start the Torah with? And Rashi, the second Rashi in the Chumash, says there are two things that Hashem calls Reshit. Reshit Darko, which is referring to Torah, and Reshit Fuato, which is referring to Klal Yisrael. The way you read the first pasuk in the Torah is as follows: Bereshit, Bishvil Reshit, Bara Elokim et Hashamayim et Haaretz. The reason why Hashem created Shamayim v'Haaretz was for Reshit. Who's Reshit? Reshit Darko, the Torah, and Reshit Fuato, which is Klal Yisrael. The purpose of the creation of the world was for Klal Yisrael to be able to learn and keep the Torah. Nikuda. Period. It's never going to change. It's never going to be deviated. It's never going to, no ideology could take away from this message, because it's the first word in the Torah, and that's why Hashem created the world. Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim. Bishvil Reshit bara Elokim et hashamayim et haaretz. And everything else included. Everything else. Everything from the beginning of creation till today, everything from the smallest germ to the greatest galaxies. Bereshit, Bishvil Reshit, Bishvil Klal Yisrael, and Bishvil HaTorah, Lilmod v'lishmor et HaTorah. Period. Omer HaRambam, that certain things you might think, seemingly, have nothing to do with Klal Yisrael and Torah. What does a Chinese cockroach-eating Chinaman in China have to do with keeping, and Klal Yisrael keeping Torah? Have to do one or the other. Says the Rambam, although you may not always be able to link the dots, everything was for the Torah. Everything that happens, from the politics, from somebody's, every little thing in the Torah. And he explains. He says you can have somebody on the other side of the world, he says, that builds a tremendous mansion, and you're thinking, this guy's mansion, what does that have to do with Torah? He says it's possible that somebody walking by, a Jewish Talmid Chacham, maybe 30 years later, it starts to rain, and he needs Shmirah from the Geshem, and he goes next to the house under the awning, and he protected himself from the rain. That was a tachlit for the whole binyan. You have a Chinaman guy in China, doesn't know anything else but sewing suits. If I would have to go sew my suit, it would take me time. I wouldn't be able to learn Torah. I wouldn't be able to teach Torah. So we have this guy, a Chinese guy, in order for him to be able to make suits for me. I have no doubt that's the reason why he was born, and that's the reason why that's why he has a family. This is wrote down in Mechaber. He says, he's not going to be able to survive without a family. He needs someone to cook him food. He needs to have a social life. So him and his entire family was for what? For me to be able to learn Torah. Sounds a little self-centered, but that's what the Torah Hashem created the world for. They had the choice to pick Torah as well. They didn't. We did. And now the entire world circulation has to do with Lomdei Torah. More than that, says Reb Chaim Volozhin, every Jew has to believe that not only was the creation of the world created for Torah, the continuity and the continuation of the world and the continued existence of the world is directly dependent on Limud HaTorah, consistent Limud HaTorah. That's what keeps the sustenance and the fuel for the world to continue to exist. Says Reb Chaim Volozhin, if there would be even 1 second that Torah would not be being learned, the world would not get exploded. The world would cease to exist. Being that the koach for the world to exist is from the Torah, the world would cease to exist. I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a projector. Projector is projecting a picture onto the wall. You look onto the wall, you could see a whole video, you could see a city, you could see people. It looks like there's a lot going on in that wall. But the second I pull the plug on the projector, there's nothing. Everything disappears. Because koach, all the energy for that to be there was coming from the projector. The whole world as we see it is coming from the projector. This is Torah. And when we learn it, we are helping sustain it, to keep it turning, and to be able to keep everything that the world has to offer us. Said the Gemara, when we diminish our keeping and our learning of Torah, so too the world diminishes to produce. Says that in the times of the times of when they went to when they kept the Torah more properly than we did, the fruits were better, the produce was better, and now it diminishes. It says when Mordechai HaTzadik went to the government, he went into government affairs in order to be able to save Klal Yisrael. At the end of the whole story, our hero, he was the Rosh Sanhedrin, and they demoted him they lowered his status at the end of the whole Megillah story. And you would think that someone like Mordechai Tzaddik, if anything, they should promote him after the whole Megillah story. He just saved whole Klal Yisrael. And the Midrashim explained that Mordechai Tzaddik was not able to learn Torah as much since he was busy with government affairs. Although he single-handedly saved Klal Yisrael, but someone who learns Torah is doing more for Klal Yisrael than even Mordechai Tzaddik. And we have to believe it and understand it, and appreciate it and cherish it. That those who continue to learn our Torah, those who continue to teach it and preach it, are the reason and the sustenance of the continuation of the world. And they are doing more to sustain and save Klal Yisrael, more than maybe even people that are doctors and arts. With all due respect, more to sustain the world. And Chavetz Chaim they were opening a hospital in Radin, a hospital. And the Chavetz Chaim was by a dinner, an inaugural dinner, and he was trying to fundraise for the hospital. And every person who donated a certain amount of beds to the hospital, he gave them a Misha Berach and he gave them a Kavod. Because he was trying to have this hospital being built, very important. Comes in a yeshiva boy, and he has a question on his learning. And the Chavetz Chaim sees him, he brings him in with the Kavod. He talks to him, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, talking to him, explaining to him, encouraging him, whatever he needed. And one of the people there that was a very wealthy person, he got maybe 2 minutes beracha from the Chavetz Chaim, and this yeshiva bacher is getting 20 minutes. So he went over to the Chavetz Chaim with a little chutzpah. He says, and how many beds did he donate? How many beds did he donate? Chavetz Chaim says, 100 beds. He donated 100 beds. So he said, I'm sorry, I didn't know, so I'm unassuming, I didn't realize that's 100 beds. He's like, doesn't look like the type. He says, because of him, because of his limud Torah, we don't need 100 beds in the hospital. He's protecting that people shouldn't get sick. So who's doing this Klal Yisrael a bigger favor? The people that learn Torah, protecting Klal Yisrael, or the people that are taking care of the people that are sick because there wasn't enough limud Torah in the world? Of course, we owe our lives and akarat tov to anybody that helps anybody in any way, in any fashion. But understand that the purpose of the world is Torah, and the continuation of the world is Torah. So those who learn it and cherish it should be cherished by us, because they are sustaining the entire world. Kol ha'olam kulo nizon bishvol Chanina beni. Chanina used to sit and learn, and a bat kol came out, and the entire world is being sustained financially on one man, Chanina beni. He sits and learns Torah, and the entire financial world rests on his shoulders. I'll tell you like this. My father, Zichrono Livracha, had a Bet Knesset in Brooklyn. He started his rabbinical career somewhat in 20 years old, and he ended it, or Hashem ended it for him, at 43 Be'erech. And the success he had in those short 43 years outdid a lot of people that lived many more lifetimes than him. The amount of people he put on the Derech Torah, the amount of families he made a difference to, it helped. And he one time sat us down he sat us down on the couch, and he said, I have something very important to talk to the kids about. He said, we're going to have a special guest coming to our house, and I need everybody to treat him with the utmost respect. Whatever he needs, you look out for him. Whatever you see that you give him first. You make sure who's this special guest. We're assuming, he was talking, how he was talking, you have to be careful and you have to speak nicely and everything. I was assuming nobody less than Chacham Ovadia. Chacham Ovadia once came. I was thinking it's for sure another one of these rabbis. Who's coming? There's a boy in yeshiva that lived out of town, and there was a Shabbat that was off, and he was going to come to our house. A yeshiva bachur, a bachur yeshiva, he's coming to our house. So now you're looking at me, and I'm like, oh, really? Like, Abba, like, it's like, yeah, Shiva Bachur, he learns Yeshiva Torah all day. He's coming to our house, so we have to make sure, and treat him nicely, and make sure he gets everything. I'm like, Abba, you talk to him like you talk better than the Rosh Yeshiva. Like, the Bachur, you're treating better than the Rosh Yeshiva. He's like, what do you mean? He's greatest. I said, he's greater than Rosh Yeshiva? B'zeh hamili ken. I'm like, Rosh Yeshiva, he's greater? He says, yeah. Lama. Rosh Yeshiva, they get busy. They have to take care. They still have to dog. So Yeshiva Bachur, the only thing he does is learn Torah. He's the cherry, that remember these words. The cherry on the top of whole Klal Yisrael is the one who learned Torah all day. You think I had nothing else in my life I wanted to be besides Yeshiva Bachur? That's the only thing I wanted to be, the glory of Klal Yisrael. There's nothing else I wanted to be able to make an impression on instead of valuing people who learn Torah. In my father's shul, it was the entire shul revolved around limud and yuna Torah. Never did daf yomi in his school, in his shul. He never had an art scroll enter into things. La'amol b'Torah. And that's how he was able to make a bigger impact on people than anybody. Because he connected them to limud Torah. Now, it sounds like I'm talking in Lakewood. Shiv Bachur is great. I don't know if you look at me, I don't have a connection to that. There's a fundamental mistake when we look at a great gadol, Yeshiva Bachur. Guys learn Torah all day. Look what he does. Look what he does for the world. Unbelievable. I do mine. Beautiful. I respect him. I'll give you let's say you would have somebody who would be a multi-millionaire. He made it very, very wealthy. And you would tell him, the first $100, that's not what makes you a millionaire. It's the last $100 that makes you. The guy looks at me, what do you mean the first $1 million is out? Every $100 compiles me to make $1 million. You take one, I'm not a millionaire anymore. Put it back, I'm a millionaire. Every $100 that I own together makes me who I am. When you look at a Talmid Chacham or a rabbi, his greatness is every single page and halacha and word of Torah together makes him who he is. Because every single word of Torah is valuable on its own right. Every Mishnah, every line. Now the reason what makes him great is because he did so many lines. But every line in itself is its own value. when a person, anybody, attaches himself to even one line of Gemara, he attaches himself to that greatness of a Bachur Yeshiva, of a Rosh Yeshiva, of a person who sustains and the purpose of the creation of the world. That's the only purpose, and the only way you connect yourself is by attaching yourself to a Liman Torah. But even one line and one Mishnah already attach you to that greatness, because that itself is its greatness. Now, Rishon Salanta says the following. Rishon Salanta says that people are going to come to Shemayim, and people think that they're going to pull out all the guns and all the accusations. Why did you become Gadol Hador? And he says they're making a fundamental mistake in what Din is going to look like. He says, you know what they're going to nail you on? Not why you didn't become Gadol Hador. Why didn't you learn 5 minutes more than you learned the day before? That's all. 90%, Rabbi Salanta says, 90% of the judgment in Olam Haba, 90% of the judgment on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is, why didn't you do 5 minutes more than you did the day before? That's it. 10% is why you didn't be Gadol, but 90% is, why didn't you do what was easy for you? Why didn't you do what you could have done? Everybody could learn one line of Gemara. Everybody could learn a Mishnah. You push it off. I don't have a connection to this. I don't have a connection to that. What am I going to do? What is Mishnah going to do for me? One Mishnah, that could be 90% of your judgment, one Mishnah. 90%, 90%. One Mishnah. One line of Gemara. Trust me, that Mishnah and that line and that page is going to bring you to much greater stuff. There's so many resources here in Myrtle Beach, online. There's so many resources to be able to learn the Torah. Nobody has the right to tell you no. Everybody has a connection to it. Like we see over here in the back, he's sitting there and learning at an art school. Nothing could stop you. Bezrat Hashem, realize the purpose of the creation, realize what continues creation, realize the greatness of those who learn Torah, and realize this greatness that you could attach yourself by even learning one word and one Mishnah of Torah. Bezrat Hashem.
Hazak u'baruch.